Let's start with the bonus update notes. May 4th, so that's in a week. Skins, Kuzenbot, Kuzenbo, Stitch Crate. Okay, that skin's sick. The what's it called on this skin are good. That's gonna be sick. Tiamat. Deso. So I saw this one before, but down from 8 seconds to 6 seconds. Pretty irrelevant. The ultimate isn't getting massive subtraction by 2 seconds. So Deso's still gonna be bought if you need a cooldown item with some pen, some power. Deso's gonna be sick. It's still gonna be a rushed item. Ansile. I literally called this yesterday. They're going to decrease the power and increase the cost. 50 power for 2250. The problem is Ansile is still less expensive than Jotuns, less expensive than Crusher, Brawlers, Shifters. It is just the cheapest power item spike you can get, and you're still getting 50 power off of it. You're still getting cooldown. You're still getting the silence or whatever. You're still getting that for 2250. Still going to be bought. This won't affect it too much. Maybe some games where you would go before, you're going to be opting to not buying it. But I think for the most part, this item is still going to be bought. It's still going to be good. Maybe some soul laners will be opting into a different item. But I think it's still too strong. That cooldown on that, on the passive is insane. Shifters, decrease power 35 to 30. Decrease physical power on the passive 35 to 30. So this item is now just 60 power instead of 70. And it's the exact same cost. It's a nerf. Is it a big one? No, not another big one. This combo is still going to be relevant. It's still going to be in your games. It's still too strong of a combo. You're getting 30 prots here. You're getting 30 prots here when you're low of each. And then you're getting 60 power and 110 power total for being at full health. Also, these two items combo with Boomba's Hammer really well. So maybe if this gets nerfed a lot, removing the pen is perfect. This item should not have pen. This should be a utility item that you use for just survivability and a little bit of poke. This is still going to be a total build. Ansile, Shifters, Boombas. It's still going to be too strong. You're getting 20% cooldown, 110 power, 300 health from Boombas. Still a little bit too much. This is too cheap. If you go these three items, then just slap on like a Titan's Bane Mantle, you're going to be unkillable. You're going to do too much damage. You're going to be controlling game still. Gilgamesh. I can't really put too much into Gilgamesh. I haven't played him enough in comp. I haven't played him really much in casuals either. Seems like he was super strong. This is a good little nerf. Good little nerf. Good little nerf. I can't really put too much onto Gilgamesh because I haven't played him at a top level yet. You kind of have to wait for rank to see how strong he is. All right, Tiamat. What in the absolute is that nerf? So they thought Tiamat was too strong.
Give me that.
Because she was healing too much via her passive. Terrible nerf. There's a second nerf that's better. Okay, so maybe in 6.5 or 8.5 there'll be another nerf, but this by itself is a dreadful nerf. Tsukiyomi. Piercing Moonlight. Decreased damage mitigation against while firing this from 30 to 20. Good. You can actually maybe do a little bit more damage to him in ult because he's going to be sitting on top of you. It's a good little nerf. His ult was just a little bit too much damage. Too much damage, too much safety. It touched a little bit on both of it. I still think Tsukiyomi's going to be on the strong side, but this will reel him back a little bit. He'll have a little bit more counterplay in his ult, which is like, I think the biggest thing. Guan. Cavalry Charge. Oh. Think back at a time when this was not 175 and it was 205. How many times could you proc this? Is it like 6? Maybe 7? I don't know exactly how much it is. 1200 damage if it procs 6 times. And it slows every time to confirm your next hit. Nice little nerf to it. Decreased in the early game by a little bit and all throughout the game. I think this is a good change. Guan is still just too strong. It'll hurt his entire game because Cavalry Charge is insane. It still has that nice stun if you insta-cancel, but I think he'll still be top of the meta. Maybe he falls down a little bit towards like Cucullin and Arthur instead of just being at the top. Maybe he's even with them now, but he's still going to be strong. Apollo. I think Apollo's comp viability is not that high because you can play around his ults. The problem is Apollo at ranked, he rotates to fights you don't think he's going to be at. There's not call outs. There's enemy missing, but you're kind of focused on a fight, so you just don't even think about the Apollo, and then he lands on the fight and wins the fight for his team. That's kind of the biggest problem. Apollo's more of a rank god. Decrease the stacks gained from damaging a god with an ability from 2 to 1. Audacity is now going to be harder to get, which is nice in the laning phase and out of the laning phase. He was strangely hard to catch after his dash. Like, you think you could catch him some of the times and he would just speed out because of the movement speed. I don't really care about the debuff. The debuff is something he should have if he's dashing aggressively. 10% early game. It's something he kind of needs to put some points into to be able to get a little bit faster. Since this is the last ability he levels, this is actually a decent nerf. Increased mana cost from 10 mana to 40 mana per second to 10 mana plus up to 80 per second. Can't just sit in the air late game, which is good. This is going to take his almost double mana late, or it is double mana late game. So it cancels the time you could be in the air by half. Reverted the duration increase. Decreased magical scaling from 30 to 20 and decreased base damage. I don't know. I don't think Athena was played because of the buff to Confound, at least in support. I think her in the jungle and her in solo was played because of the Confound buff. I think this is hardly going to do anything. She's played in the other roles because she now has a third ability that does damage. You're not really psyched about Athena's taunt damage in support. You're psyched about it in jungle. And then you have your auto attack cancel with your passive. Then you can 3 in passive and auto or dash in passive. I really think this has no effect on Athena at all. She will be picked the exact same amount if she was going to be picked somewhere anywhere or someplace anyway. This 20% might be a little bit of something because her taunt basically won't do any more damage than the 160 base. On her Impale and Desert Fury was just, I mean, okay, hardly a nerf. 5% scaling on a physical god is 20 damage late game. Early game, it's 5 damage, if that. So this is pretty irrelevant. This one, kind of relevant early game. You have 8 of them, so you're going to be decreasing your early game damage by 40. You're decreasing it late game by 40, which is pretty irrelevant. But it's a nice little early game nerf to Desert Fury. He's still going to be picked the exact same amount. I don't think it changes it at all. Set. Skewer damage. His poke is down. And that is big. I think this is kind of the bigger thing than the skewer damage. I guess maybe early game damage, it's down a little bit. It doesn't really change anything late game. I think Set was in a decent spot before. The Boomba's Hammer's nerf was pretty good. This is a pretty solid nerf to Set, though. They must have been just kind of sick and tired of Set being at the top, because this is something you can't really touch against Set, because this is one of the things that makes him hard to box by a hunter. Charge Prey, irrelevant cooldown. It's nothing. It's literally nothing. Changes nothing about Sobek. You're going to pick Sobek the exact same reason. All right, that was 8.4 update. We'll move on to 8.5 skins. Slushy Hades. Erica was just telling me that this is an artist, so he must have designed this skin. Sullivan King. That's a pretty sick Gilgamesh skin. Kovan Chunga. Good skin. Azula. I'm excited for that. RAVE Khepri. Nice. His face looks sick. If the art is even decent, this is a sick skin. I'm down. That looks like a sick one. Moonseer. Dude. Smite's art team is so good. Okay, so Athena, maybe we check what Athena looks like on her skin is sick, and then Athena. So it just made her like look newer. May 18th is the actual update. Quality of life. General start items will now appear when using. Oh, that is the best change in both of these patches. Why can I not type in Bluestone when I want to build Bluestone, man? In the case of an earlier surrender, the winning team will now acquire a reduced amount of MMR. Good. Losing team will still have no. Okay, good. Good. Change. I like that. Why is the loudest noise in Smite the Q pop and the arena crowd? Those are the two loudest noises, and it's not even close. Nothing comes close. The third one is then Kumbhakarna, the General Nosferatu skin, where he ranked resets are returning. Don't know why they ever left. They do it every patch. That's gonna be so weird, man. Oh, that's actually big. If Nema gets hit by a disarm, she used to have a bad matchup in Suki, but now she has a really, really bad matchup in Suki because she won't be able to trade autos with him, and she can't shield it. So she has to just take the damage and then shield after. That is, and you're stunned, so you can't even. Oh, that is, whew. That is a big. It's a bug change, but that is massive. Okay, it's not like massive, but like Bologna and Suki have just a lot better matchups than Nem. Don't care. Cabrakan full lifesteal buff. Maybe. Wind Demon. Are we hitting the pen? As long as it's not the pen, this item will probably be fine. If it touches the pen, this item might be dead. Decreased movement speed. It just makes it so you're not overly reliant on the crit now. Before, you're kind of just super reliant because it gave you a lot of attack speed and movement speed. Now you know you're going to be getting a little bit less. Upgraded Magic Shell Relic. I saw this one before. It's a good change. Shell lasts for 3 seconds. Feels like in most cases it's still going to be a nerf because you'll be doing half the damage. You'll be slowly destroying the shell. In most cases, this is going to be a nerf. I can't think of one where it'll be a buff at all. Wait. Timeline buff? But still, it needs to happen. Kali, Mercury, or Mercury mostly was terrible. Terrible. And now it's decent. Now he's decent, I should say, because he was just hard countered by Shell. Ooh, nice little 25 power. They're slowly making an alternate timeline a very viable starter now. I think it's actually in a good spot. No, huge, massive. Doesn't change anything. Doesn't change anything. Yeah, Dodgy was absolutely destroyed by the Shell too. I want to show that his streammates can have sands of time. Okay, nice. Good little buff. I like that buff. Gem did fall out of favor. Archmages fell out of favor, and alternate fell out of favor a little bit. Nice small buffs to all of them. This one is probably the biggest. This one's the smallest, obviously, and then Gem of Focus is actually not a bad one either. Overall, makes mage starters feel a little better because everyone's been complaining, at least mages have been complaining, mid laners. Those items are a little underwhelming, and it buffs them a little bit. Boomba's Spear buff added 10% CDR. Okay, so that's a little bit of CDR taken away from Boomba's Hammer, given to Boomba's Spear. Remove the mana, which is, I don't know why I had mana. Passive now provides a 10% buff for 10-second duration after jungle camp and jungle camps. So if you go kill a jungle camp and then fight somebody, you get 10% power buff instead of this passive gold. So now it's basically, instead of fighting in lanes, you fight in the jungle and you go kill a camp, you get a little bit extra power. Definitely a buff. I still think it's just worse than hammer, but maybe some god may be able to utilize it. Remove basic attack power. Now it's provides 60 physical power and 90 magical power. Increase bonus damage on the passive for... Wow. This is broken. So instead of having basic attack reliant god, you have a power item that is a better Soul Reaver, better Axe, better Ethereal Staff, as long as they're above like 80% health. This will be chunking people. That is so much burst for no reason. Any type of burst god, that is a lot of damage. The thing is, I'm pretty sure this is physical damage. You can itemize to reduce it, obviously. You can't apply your magical pen on a physical defensive item. I mean, a physical damage item. However, I still think this is going to be insane. Nem with this. Erlang with this now, too. I think Kali would even use it well, just because you just blink, stun, one someone. A lot of assassins, maybe some warriors will even be using this out of the jungle. I might be maybe overestimating a little bit, but I think a Willix is huge. A Willix with this is huge. This might be the biggest buff in the patch so far, and it's really not close. That is huge. That's not bad. I still just think it doesn't have a place for the most part. Obviously, there's going to be some scenarios where this item would be sick if you have a bat camp up and you kill it and then you walk into the jungle and... I mean, you walk into Fire Giant because you're trying to get some D-wards. Like, it's going to have some viability, but it's just so focused on warding, and warding isn't really going to change fights too much. It's obviously not going to be a ranked item. Maybe some comp... We'll see some something with it. This 30% is pretty decent, though. No, stop. Why are we buffing Warrior's Axe? To 30 and decrease... Why? Why do we want... I'm not even a soul laner. I'm a f***ing support, and nobody likes Warrior's Axe. It is the most boring meta when Warrior's Axe is in solo lane. I think they did just buff Bluestone. Death Toll is still strong, so maybe Warrior's Axe is still not going to be built, but oh, I'm going to have some naps over there when people are picking Warrior's Axe Sobek and sitting under the tower, man. Oh, I'm having flashbacks already. Sigil, good buff. Sigil, I think Sigil was pretty much the weakest early game starter option. Other than like War Flag or something that's even just not relevant. I think you just get bullied out a little bit too hard with warding Sigil. It's basically all tankiness. It doesn't allow you to clear waves or anything. It needed the love. It needed the love. Stop buffing Benevolence. Okay, well, okay, it's a nerf actually, but still. Don't touch this item. Maybe even nerf this item. Like, there's a problem when this item is almost always going to be better unless you're getting snowballed on super hard. Oh, please don't buff. Please. What in the absolute Why? This change doesn't make sense. This did not feel particularly rough. You're going to be ahead because you have this item. You're just giving another handicap to players that are even farther behind or like building into this item. It was a horrible... I hate this change. Okay, that's nice. Instead of only 18%, you get 24% of your health from a wave. I think Boon slowly but surely... Embrace is coming down. Boon is coming back up. The problem is Benevolence is just probably maybe a bit too strong right now. I don't know. But that's a good boon buff. Another Karen's coin buff. 2,400 gold, 90 power, 20% pen, HP 5, movement speed on kills. I think Karen's coin is a little underrated right now. I think you just have to give Thoth pen. You just got to get a Book of Thoth pen when you finish the stacks. I just don't think it's good. If you go a normal build, you're going like Book, Boots, Rod, Obshard. And what feels better? Books, Boots, Rod, Obshard, or Conduit / Sands, Deso, Boots, Rod, Obshard? What is going to be feeling better? Yeah, it's good on Cuckoo. Cuckoo will now be a buff to Cuckoo. Nice. Awesome. Huge. It's too hard to go into if you don't give it pen. I complained about it already because somebody told me about it, but who wants more healing in the game? No one. Why? Why are we giving more healing into the game? I don't know, man. I feel like something like Anubis with just Lifesteal Boots, Magus, Typhons is now going to be having 400 and something power with 3 items and 40% lifesteal, and it gives flat pen, and the other one gives percent pen, and then you go into like a Rod Obshard and you're fully capped on pen. You have 900 power. Like, I don't know. This, you have the Soul Gem item now too, which also gives lifesteal. So I don't know. Maybe they're trying to make it an auto attack item, like a Freya item, Chronos item, Olo item. It will feel better now with hunters now. So now you can actually just go Lifesteal Boots, Magus, Demonic, and it'll probably feel better. Oh, Lifesteal to Magus is just not what I wanted to see. It just makes Lifesteal more annoying. Why Lifesteal? Why not just give it like Deso's like the all-in power item. Maybe give it something else. But I don't know. This change just doesn't make sense. They're just throwing lifesteal into the flat pen tree. Okay, I guess it is a buff because 20 to 10 seconds, even though you decrease your health a little bit, it buffs your allies a little bit. Whatever. Okay. Pretty irrelevant. This item felt terrible building into. It was way too expensive. This item might have a little bit of viability now. This is a good change. A nice little cost decrease. I think Foul is kind of on the border of being OP and irrelevant. It's like on that border. It's like wibbly wobbly back and forth. Decreasing the cost is a good place to start. I would be very careful buffing this item because it does have mitigations on it. I think I'm always just worried about playing against mitigations. Gilgamesh increases the burst damage from 65. So it's just a little nerf late game. Like I said, I don't know Gilgamesh too much, so I'm not going to talk too much on it. Stun decreases 1.2 seconds at all ranks. Sure. Tiamat. Decrease the lifetime of deployable from 21 to 11 seconds. There's also only 4 bosses spawning instead of 6. Good. Nerf her split push. Also, she's still a little bit too tanky. I think she's still going to be a little strong. But if she can't split push her Phoenix by herself anymore, I don't think, at least maybe possible, but I don't think. Baka, who's hungry? Me. This basically just incentivizes you to spam eat minion. If this ability is up, you're just having to use it now. Unless you need to just use an auto attack instead of using your 2. But at almost all points of the game, if you're just clearing the jungle, you're going to want to use your 2 so you have more mana. In laning phase, if you play him in laning phase 2, you shouldn't ever have a problem with mana. Butcher Blade, decrease cooldown from 4. This makes trading into a Baka in solo lane super difficult. 12 seconds. Like, you also have blue, so that decreases the cooldown by 10 seconds. This is basically like, maybe solo Baka makes a return. I think Baka's just weird in the jungle right now because of, maybe the shell nerf will make Baka fine. I don't know exactly. I can't really talk too much on it because I haven't played against the shell. I haven't played with it. The thing is I don't know where you want to buff Baka because he's such a volatile character. So I guess this is a decent place to start. That is a good amount of damage. 15 damage early. I don't know how much her slam does, but this makes Bologna even harder to fight into early game. I like that. This stun late game is just nice. Bologna's ult was definitely just felt a little underwhelming. I think giving it a little extra stun is nice. Chiron, dog. Ooh, not dog. That's actually not too bad. I think his giddy up should have been knockup immune before. It's so slow, and it just feels like all the time it's going to get interrupted. So I like that change. So far, I see something happening that I'm not too excited for. They nerf Shell, and they're buffing characters that were bad against Shell. That is, wow. The problem is if Shell's nerfed too hard, and characters that are good against Shell, or that were bad against Shell, are now getting buffed also, these characters might just run the game. So we have Baka buff. Now we have Dodgy buff. And it's just base damage buff across the board. She just does more damage. They just buffed Dodgy's early game. So Dodgy does more damage. Fafnir. Please don't buff the gold. Please do not touch his passive. Curse strength. Decrease cooldown. Nice. Eyes do his ability 1 in dragon form. Okay, good. Oh my. This is such a nice change. Why is this 18 seconds? Why did it not... I mean, maybe about 15 seconds all game may be a little strong. These are actually huge cooldown changes to Fafnir. Huge cooldown changes to Fafnir. Maybe we main Fafnir I can't speak, rest of the year. A little bit of power buff, increased health shield. It's basically just 20 health on her shield the entire game. Relevant early, relevant at all late, not really. Hair's really not getting a buff. This better be a cuckoo ban. Oh, Slipstream, awesome. I love a slippery noodle. Nice little cooldown buff to Medusa. Feels better. Medusa's 3 is a really aggressive ability. I think it would have been sick if they did something like if Medusa dashes aggressively and hits a god, maybe like take the cooldown by like half or something like they did with Fenrir. She feels so bad if you're just dashing defensively. I think I would have preferred them to take it there because this is just buffing her safety. I prefer Medusa as an aggressive god. I mean, still buff to her. Nice. That's a nice little buff. I mean, I guess this one's not bad. It just makes it a full 1 second, which makes it feel a little bit better. But this is pretty irrelevant because prots are garbage late game. This is decent because it's some attack speed. Decent Mulan buff. There's a couple things that I just think were bad changes this patch. And then a lot of it was pretty decent. A lot of it was at least okay. The biggest thing has got to be this Hidden Blade. If PTS comes out, I want to give this a try and just play a bunch of hunters. I mean, a bunch of gods with this item and just see how it feels. I mean, overall, they buffed a bunch of the horrible starters, which is good. And then they nerfed a couple of the OP ones. And by a couple, I mean Boomba's hammer. Let's go look at Persephone.
So her one, previously, it had a... you'd fire it and you had to really lead your target.
I like this.
Because it was it had a very long cast time and didn't update your aim. As well as for pro players.
I like this. I already like how this looks.
Fire this out. It's passive minions damage.
Oh my, fire it.
If I just forward hit slows the target there. As well as I can now aim it and update it to send it flying to new targets after I fire it. Which will just make this ability feel a lot more intuitive with how most other mages feel.
Nice.
This is Harvest. You can see this new targeter shape. It's a area with 3 skulls kind of inside of it.
All right.
Fire it, a brief windup happens and explodes, creating 3 seeds around it. You can see here I can use this to damage ability or damage enemies. So you can use it to actually poke enemy gods.
She heal.
Souls, you can also tell, are upgrading immediately to the flower stage. They're no longer going to the bud stage. We're focusing more on you utilizing the charging flowers, and we're giving you much more control over them. And it's controlled entirely by my basic attack range. So you can see here, like if I'm really close, I can aim a little bit to the right, and it'll go out to the right.
But did they hit multiple people?
You can send them to like, hey, they're trying to walk this way. Oh, they're trying to get cut off. I can cut them off this way. Send them out flying that way. You have a lot more play with where you're going to actually send these out. Another important thing is you can send them through the walls, so you can actually catch people who are trying to run through.
Why? Why does that run through walls, man?
Plants immediately from storing them up. Over the course of a game with some CDR, you'll actually be casting this significantly more often. You will have more plants to play with. Especially when you're trying to Phoenix Siege, you're going to be chucking these at the enemy all the time. You'll be throwing these out there, trying to poke your opponents with them, trying to lead them off, head them off. And the most important thing is enemies have a clear understanding of what they need to do to avoid this. They need to get out of the way. They need to try and outrun it.
It's like you're playing Donkey Kong, that Donkey Kong where he throws the barrels and you're literally just like dip, diving, dodging, like weaving through them. It's like a maze now, man.
Ability. The only real major difference is that now this says damage on takeoff, so you can see that I hurt my target there. As well as I don't have the pre-seed that I get before because there's no tier 2 plant, as well as there's no really harvest ability to upgrade. It's just really there for the Persephone players who were doing the things like casting this and basic attacking after they leapt for some damage, just to make sure that that's still there if they're escaping from a target jumping off. The other combo you can do now is you can drop these down, have 3 plants immediately, and send them out flying.
Juke this. Yo, we're sieging. Juke this. What?
You can now pop this down and then leap and send a charging army to your team pretty much on demand, which is definitely a lot more flexibility than she had before. The ultimate, previously what would happen is you wouldn't be able to move further out. Now that see, Bot's Orbit doesn't behave. That Odin did not respect anything.
The alt nerf feels good though.
It just felt very restricted to play against, but we like the core identity and feel of this ability. The idea that the enemy team can come and try and save their trapped teammate.
Yeah, I like that changed a lot more to the alt. Instead of just getting locked from walking away from it.
We thought the idea of her going to this death realm and reviving and doing something after she dies was still very core to her thematics.
I like
players would appreciate. So
I like that. Yeah.
You now enter the death realm. You can see I now can't see anyone. I can't interact with anyone. I don't know where anyone is, but now I'm in this kind of planning stage. So let's say I die in mid lane and I think, hey, they're gonna have a fighter on fire.
Honestly, this is
Let's place a few seeds here. Then let's maybe walk over here, put one back here, one back here. And then finally, just in case, I'm gonna put one in mid just to make sure I'm good to go. You can place up to 6 seeds in the state. You have all the time that you would normally be respawning.
The problem is,
so you can see,
at least at a high level, getting actually to a gray screen and being able to call stuff is huge. With Persephone now, sometimes you're going to want to plant stuff. Sometimes you're just going to want to die and not plant anything just so you can get to the gray screen and call stuff. Not being able to see people is kind of bad for her.
Being in the state is no negative to you. It's entirely...
I mean, it is. You can't make calls to your team. I mean, you can cancel it, but like, if you cancel it, what's your passive at that point? Literally nothing. You can't plan anything. And like a late game team fight, you're either just going to want to die instantly just so you can like make calls or something, or you're just not going to be making calls, which is, I mean, maybe not the biggest deal, but I think her passive is just
for free.
Weird. It makes her 100 times more fun to play against. Her old kit was not fun. And I tweeted about it and somebody responded to me that the kit, just because the kit's frustrating doesn't mean it's deserving of a rework. But if it gets frustrating because it has no counterplay, her passive didn't have counterplay, her 2 didn't have counterplay, her ult had limited counterplay, and then her 1 would place those deep siege, which would lead to her 2. She had very, very little counterplay with most of her kit, and it was frustrating play against. Now at least most of her kit has counterplay. Overall, it's just better. Decent patch all the way around.